RO-T8 pull-up station from Prime Fitness. Now, this thing is pretty cool. And on racks that I've owned in the past, I've had everything from straight pull-up bars, smooth, knurled, fat, skinny, neutral, angled, and even some adjustable, but nothing really quite compares to the smooth rotation, paddle grips, and the quick width adjustment of the RO-T8 pull-up station. Although it's probably not the best way to go if you're someone who needs to do strict straight bar pull-ups, or if you're training for something specific like the CrossFit games or whatever. For those of us who use pull-ups as like an upper body exercise, who maybe want more of an ergonomic grip where you can also maximize additional muscle recruitment to eke out a few extra reps or better target your lats, for example, the RO-T8 pull-up station is the best I've ever used. And once again, for what it's worth, I purchased this at full price, deprived my kids of food to fully fund it, and I have been saying this long before my affiliation with Prime, and therefore before MWPIG5 saved 5% at Prime Fitness. So, since purchasing the Prodigy and the RO-T8 station, I've written or responded to several posts about retrofitting on a Rogue or a Rep rack, and I've also walked several people through the process. In the meantime, it's pretty simple. You don't even have to remove your cross member or anything like that, and there are actually a couple of ways to do it. So I figured, why not make a video? I could outline the steps, and then whenever the question comes up again, well, you get the point. As I mentioned earlier, there are a couple of ways to do it, and there's no difference at all, regardless of whether you're fitting it to a rack from Rep, Rogue, Titan, Fringe, or anywhere else that you can think of. With that being said, let's get started. Okay, option one. So this is the cleanest option, the one I believe most people will probably do. It's reversible, so this is the one I'm going to start with. The first thing you're going to do is order the RO-T8 pull-up station from primefitnessusa.com. You're going to use code MWPIG5 at checkout so you can save 5%. And if you happen to buy a whole shitload of them, I might be able to recoup a percentage of what I've spent building this ridiculous gym I'm standing in. Also, in order to ensure that you have all the parts and pieces you'll need, you'll want to check your personal inventory, or you can head over to McMaster-Carr, grab the following items, which I have listed and linked in the description for your convenience, and you can see it's pretty basic. You'll need like, I don't know, 4 5/8 to 1 inch spacers that are 3 inches in length. You're going to need 4 large washers like you would get with your Monster or PR5000 hardware. And then also I would grab some of these 1.5 inch by 1/2 inch washers to kind of close the gap. A few days later, you're going to receive all this stuff in a few boxes, including the pull-up station in a huge box that's going to be stuffed with expanding styrofoam. It's going to be fully assembled, and it's going to have everything that you would need in order to attach it to a Prime Prodigy rack. But since you're not attaching yours to a Prime rack, you're going to need a few tools so you can remove the brackets from the cross member, specifically a 3/4 inch wrench and a 3/4 inch socket, or whatever combination of wrench socket you prefer, so long as there are 2 of them and they're both 3/4 of an inch. There are 3 bolts through each bracket, so 6 in total. Just remember, lefty-loosey until the brackets are no longer attached to the cross member. And as noted, Prime uses 3 bolts to attach each bracket to their cross member, but keep in mind, you're going to be reusing the bolts that came with the Prime. And for your rack, you're only going to use the outermost holes on each bracket, and so therefore a total of 4 of the bolts. So exactly where you put them along your cross member is totally up to you. Some people install them starting at the very first hole closest to the upright. Some move them in a few holes. Again, it's up to you. Just make sure that they're spaced equally if you want them to be centered on your rack. Before you can start the process of assembling it to your rack, you're going to have to remove that 3rd bolt from the center of the bracket on the Prime pull-up station. In order to do so, you're going to need a 15/16 wrench and also a 3/8 inch Allen wrench. First thing you're going to want to do is remove this rubber cap from the Allen. It's going to give you access to that, and then you're going to use your 15/16 wrench to remove that bolt from the top side of it. Okay, removal is pretty simple. Like I said, you just remove the bolt. You can actually just move this to the side. You don't have to take this off at all. You just move that to the side, and you can just pull that bolt right out. Go ahead and just put that back together. Install the nut. Once you determine where you want them on your cross member, you start assembly by inserting the 1/2-inch bolts from Prime through the outermost holes of the RO-T8 brackets, then grab one of the 4 3-inch spacers that you purchased from McMaster and slip it over the bolt. Raise the bracket to your cross member, holding the bolt and the spacer secure with your fingers. Push it through the selected hole of your cross member. Depending on your rack, you may see the tiniest bit of excess sleeve sticking out past the hole. That's okay if so, because the next thing you're going to install the large washer with the 1-inch hole, followed by the large washer with the 1/2-inch hole. And then finally, hand tighten the 1/2-inch nut that came with the pull-up station. Now that one side of the bracket is at least secure enough, you can raise it into place, push the bolt through the bracket, then from the back side, insert the 3-inch spacer, the 1-inch washer, after that, the 1/2-inch washer, and lastly, the nut. Now you can repeat the same steps for the other bracket, and when you have both up and you're happy with the result, just tighten them down tight enough that they don't come loose, but not so tight that you're going to need a fucking torch to remove them in the future. And that's it for option 1. Option 2 might be more for those who just want to fuck shit up for the hell of it, but for option 2, you can bypass the spacers and everything that entails and just drill out the 2 outermost 1/2-inch holes on each of the brackets until you get to 1 1/16. I would never do this, but if you do, I'd recommend using several bits that gradually increase in size. Oil is your friend here, and so would be patience and maybe even a good set of safety glasses. You take that from a guy who once had to have several tiny shards of metal extracted from his eyeball after refusing to wear safety glasses during some bullshit modification I was doing to a bicycle back in the day. That was fucking not cool, man. Anyway, I don't know. Option 2 feels like if you're going to do all that, you probably don't need me anyway. You know what? Fuck option 2. Don't do that. So I think that's it, right? Yeah. Check the description below for a list of the tools and the links to the spacers and washers that you're going to need to fit the pull-up station to your rack. And don't forget to use my link for Prime Fitness or simply use my code MWPIG5 at checkout. Of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, everything else that goes on beat.